Welcome to the Sustainability Nugget podcast. I am Rarisu Marabi.
And I am Tosin Falanja.
On this podcast, we'll learn about sustainability by discussing various related topics while focusing on three pillars: the economy, the society, and the environment.
Today, we'll be talking about the carbon problem in Port Harcourt, Nigeria, and we'll feature a special interview with Gilbert, a former resident of Port Harcourt, who will give us first-hand account of what it feels like to live in a city that has such poor air quality.
So the problem of the carbon suit in Port Harcourt gained traction online earlier this year. There was a lot of talk on this problem, and there was even an hashtag Stop the Suit in Port Harcourt. But this is no way a new problem. The carbon suit is said to have first been observed in Port Harcourt late quarter of 2016, the year 2016.
Now, before we go on, let's do a brief background about Port Harcourt. So, Port Harcourt is the capital and the largest city in Rivers State, Nigeria. It is located in what is called the Niger Delta area of Nigeria. It is the fifth most populous city in Nigeria, and the current metro area population is estimated at over 3 million people. The city's economy is majorly based on fossil fuel extraction and exportation, and that makes it one of the wealthiest cities in the nation. So in such a place, you'd actually see offices of oil companies like Shell and Chevron. But we know that with every place where there's fossil fuel extraction going on or any mining operation going on, there would definitely be the environmental and societal consequences. So for over 6 decades now, since the first oil was extracted and imported or exported rather from the States, there has been constant contamination of water bodies, which has deprived entire communities in the Niger Delta region of their fishing and farming livelihoods. And even worse, the groundwater is contaminated with chemicals like benzene, which is a carcinogen found in the water drawn from wells in some local communities in places like Ogoniland.
And these carcinogens, in case anyone doesn't know, they're a substance that can actually cause cancer.
Yeah, right. And in fact, I read in a 2020 Bloomberg Green report that the life expectancy in some communities in Port Harcourt is 41 years. Now that's sad. Now, added to this environmental issue that has started for a long time ago, there's now a air quality problem. I do not believe that this air quality problem just started. Of course, like obviously with a place where there's constant gas flaring, you would expect that this has been happening for decades. It's only that it just got really worse.
Yeah, it definitely did not just start. It really just got more visible, because there's all like probably before we were born, the environmental problem in the Niger Delta has been top, right? The one that was really popular when we like years before was the oil spillage, like in the water bodies. You could literally see fishes dying and all, like the water bodies were contaminated. So like this problem has been there, but the air quality just really became more visible because now people actually see this black suit, like they see it in the clouds. They're thick dark clouds over the land, over the city. When they wipe their surfaces, they literally get black soot on their palms. This covered on their cars. So it really has been there, but it became way more visible. And so I'll just like to share an interview I did with Gilbert Ifedi. She's a past resident, or will I say her family still lives there actually. She came to the United States in 2021 for a master's at the University of South Florida, but like she lived in Port Harcourt before. And so I just want to share an interview I did with her to tell us firsthand how she experienced this problem.
Hello, Gilbert.
Hi.
So, how long have you and your family lived in Port Harcourt City?
So all my life,
So you were born there,
yes, I was born in
Port Harcourt.
Port Harcourt. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So when did you start seeing the carbon suit in Port Harcourt? Like, when did you experience it?
So after I came back from school, from college, I came back home. This was about 2018. That's when I started noticing, like, at home, when you're just walking at home, you have to wear shoes. If not, under your feet is blackened. So it's like you can't even climb the bed. Like you can't be walking in your house and climb the bed because now you have to go wash your feet to get on the bed.
So, like, when you look at your feet, you actually see black.
yes, it's covered in black. Like it's just black.
So, but like in the air, do you actually see black things, or it's all only on surface? It's like very clean.
I think I don't know how bad it is right now, but when it began, it was mostly on surfaces. Like if someone is walking on like barefooted, maybe if your child is crawling with their hands,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Like it's
So, like, every day you guys have to mop. Like, if you mop, you see black.
exactly. So like a good experience was like one time we traveled to our village in Imo State. When we came back, the house was covered in black. And, usually when you come back, your house is covered in dust. But this time around, it was soot. Like
So, like, you guys were seeing it, or you guys had to clean first to see
it's
it?
like let's say this sofa now, you clean it and you see it's black.
So, have they talked about, like, what's the cause? Like, I've seen different. Some people say it's tire, burning of tire. Like, what do you think the cause is actually?
Like I can't say for sure, but I've heard a lot of things too. Some people say it's illegal bunkering or trying to steal. But that also, I mean, has its own flaws because if it's people that are actually doing this, I think by now they'll be caught. But I don't know if it has to do with number of companies in Port Harcourt and the way they are also processing their chemicals. I don't know.
So, I know you're like in the health field, pharmacy.
Yes.
So, what do you think the effect of this carbon suit will be on the residents of Port Harcourt City? Like, since you say you noticed it since 2018, that's
Yes.
like 4 years.
Yes, and I don't know if it was started, maybe it started earlier.
Yeah.
That was personally when I started seeing, oh, this is
When you
happening,
came back
something
from
has
Ghana.
happened. Exactly.
Mhm.
And I think for most things, you don't see the effects immediately. These things, they take time to show. And I think the one I'm very concerned about is cancer, obviously. And that one is also, like the way it affects child development. Like, especially for people that are pregnant. Like, I mean, this can cause gene mutations in the future. We don't know the kind of babies.
Yeah.
We don't want to be giving birth to monsters or
Like, it's really crazy. Like, just think about it. A 4-year-old right now in Port Harcourt City that has not left Port Harcourt before. This is all that child knows, he or she. Like, they've been breathing in this air. They literally don't know what clean air feels like. Just wonder. Like, it might not, especially like it might not be physically affecting them, or they don't even know. Like, it might be really bad for people with allergies. I can just imagine.
yeah, especially those
Like,
respiratory conditions,
Yes,
asthma, things like that, COPD, and
Yeah.
I think more of those cases might increase. And we don't really
Exactly.
do research. I don't know, maybe we do research, but like we don't know the number of like how.
Yeah,
these
that
things
I
affect
even
them.
know from just my, like, I cannot say it as a scientific fact, but
Yeah.
just from me, honestly, I live in that part, not in Port Harcourt City, but in the Niger Delta area. And I, like, back home, I, like, they used to call me running nose. Like, my catarrh never stops, my sneezing never stops. When I really knew that there was something up was the first time I traveled out of the country and, like, I was not sneezing every day.
Wow.
So, like, it's really bad. And we've learned, like, Nigerians people living in those polluted areas have learned to see it as normal. Because let me just give you one example. I know we're talking too long, but like right here in Tampa, I went like to see the ENT doctor because I was having like some problems with my ear, and they had to check my nose, and they're like, "Oh, your nose is very inflamed." Like they expected me to be very uncomfortable and all, but like I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine." I'm not fine actually. It's just because I knew worse in Nigeria. So right now I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me. I know, but like,
Like
yeah,
we take things for granted.
yes.
Like we don't.
And the government is not saying anything. They're not doing it. It's been 4 years or even more.
I know people are
Or even
concerned. I know
more.
like people that live in Port Harcourt are aware, and I know they are concerned. Like they are very much concerned. But people have businesses, livelihoods there. Like it's difficult for you to ask people to uproot and move away. To
So,
get,
like, what do people do about it? Like, your family, your friends in Port Harcourt, do they do anything? Like, do they wear masks? Do they do anything at all to try to prevent like this soot from entering
you know,
their?
with the issue of masks, it's kind of difficult to wear masks when you're at home.
I know.
Yeah, even
yeah.
outside is hard. Then, so I think most things is like they just want you to clean your house. Like you have to clean
Yeah.
more often than usual.
Thank you, Gilbert, for like sharing your
Thank you.
experience.
Happy to.
So Tosin, what did you feel while that interview was going on?
Something you said actually struck out to me when you mentioned that some children that were born during that time, or children growing up within that period, would not know what clean here means or what it feels like. It's sad that this is happening. I've never been to the Niger Delta area. I live in the southwestern part of Nigeria, and I had asthma issues growing up but that was just from exposure to combustion from cars, also like burning of refuse. But now I can't imagine living in a place where like there's constant gas flaring, and there is now the problem is now compounded with black soot. Like people are actually breathing this particulate matter in. It's really sad. I think I'm just reflecting on how bad it can actually get, like how much worse can it get, and there's just a concern for children growing up in that environment as well, like or anybody in general. Like this is not, people should not be exposed to such levels of soot ever.
Sure. So I know that I told you about this problem, and like since I told you, you started researching on like the root cause of this problem. Yeah, can you tell us what you found from your research?
So from various news outlets and some documentaries, actually, I found the major primary source was linked to illegal or artisanal refining. So artisanal refining is referred to as a small scale or subsistent distillation process of crude oil, and so this is the people who run these refineries. Actually, they illegally tap crude oil from the main pipes or outlets of legal refineries, and then they process them in makeshift facilities. So there is no complete like combustion or processing of those crude oils. So you have like substandard petroleum being produced, and in that kind of condition where it's like they've improvised so many things, there's definitely no pollution regulation, nothing to check like how to curb or reduce the levels of contamination or exposure, environmental exposure to all of the burning from those areas.
Was there any mention of tire burnings?
Yes, so there these are other causes. Other causes would be the burning of tires. There's also I also noticed that there was a lot of talk about the way security officials are burning. So when they seize like illegally mined petroleum products, they would burn them openly, and that's a common thing that happens. It's a recurring issue. So you have like security officials also contributing to the issue. There's also burning of trash, then also like exhaust from or chemicals from pipe exhaust, right? From car pipe exhaust. You also have like all of these things combining together. But the major issue really is these artisanal refineries or illegal refineries. Yeah. Also to add to that, so if you wonder like why are these refineries prevalent, it's because people have been denied of what used to be their major form of livelihood, which is farming or fishing, because all of the land has been degraded. So they have resorted to finding other means of living or making money for themselves. And yeah, that's why most people have signed up to illegally refine petroleum.
Yeah. So it's really sad, right? Like the problem is not just one thing. It affects like a whole system, a whole community. Like it's just a lot. But there's something always like I know we talked about artisanal refinery and all, but I'm like this has always been there. So what in 2016? So I really feel like specific study has to be done on this.
Yeah, so there's been artisanal refining has always been there, but it just became more prevalent. Like what you would have before is actually when I was growing up, for example, what I would hear of most often is bunkering, oil bunkering. So that is when they would they also have another. I'm trying to remember what it is. Like when they would when they would like loot pipeline looting, yes. So what was common is people would actually steal from, or they would loot pipelines that are actually transporting.
Like we vandalize pipelines. Yeah.
So that was what was happening. But now people are trying to refine oil by themselves without the proper resources that a
makes
legitimate refinery would use. So, and then, as you mentioned, it is not just that. Even the legitimate refineries that we have, they are not following. There's no proper regulations against them. I think I read in a report where it was said that even companies like Shell and Chevron, it's not the same standard of operation that they use in other Western countries or developed countries that they actually use in Nigeria, obviously because things are just taken for granted.
So when you think about it like that, it's a big problem. Like the common thing of even just having air standards, just like in the United States, we have the US Environmental Protection Agency that you can't go against unless your business will be closed. We don't have such. They are there, but
yeah, we have there's the Ministry of Environment. I believe there are regulations in place, but it's just nobody is checking. We can start talking about corruption and all that, but yeah, that's what happens.
So just thinking about the health hazards of for people living in such polluted environments, like there are or a major one will be respiratory disease. So there's been reports that there's been significant increase in consultations for breathing difficulties, especially in children, and it's so sad because I know how it is to, like you said, you also have asthma, and like me too. It's so difficult when you can't breathe, and just imagine babies, children having such breathing difficulties. But there are also others like reactions such as runny nose, itchy eyes, red eyes, and who knows, cancer, like we said. Like there's just so many out there. Yeah.
I mean, when you're exposed, yeah, when you are living in an environment where your water is contaminated, like the groundwater is contaminated. So when you dig a well, the water you're drawing from the well contains chemicals like benzene. Benzene is known to cause to be a cancer causing agent. Actually, in April 2018, so Port Harcourt was rated as the worst populated city in the world with an air quality index of 188. And to give you a scale of things, like we talk about China, places like China and India being very polluted as well. So China was behind, Beijing, China was behind by 182. Delhi, India was at 181 in that year. So you can imagine like it's just bad. And then it got worse in 2020. Hair Visual, which is an a hair quality app, actually rated Port Harcourt with an air index of 207. That's like almost a 20 points increase in what it has been. So it got worse.
Wow. Please, can you just give us a quick lesson about air quality index?
Yes. So I actually also, I've been hearing about air quality since I moved to the US myself. Like I always check my phone, but because it's Microsoft just tells me, oh, your air quality is good today or it's low today. So I didn't really, this doing research about this actually helped me learn more about this myself. So I'm happy to share. The air quality index is a color-coded index used for reporting and forecasting daily air quality. So it basically tells you how clean or polluted your air is and what associated health effects might be a concern for you. So this index is divided into categories that correspond to different levels of health concerns. So I mentioned it's color coded, right? So if the value of the index is between 0 to 50, that means that your level of concern is good, like you're fine, and it's usually green. So it means that the air quality is satisfactory and the air pollution that might be present at that time poses no risk. Then between 51 to 100, it's usually the level of concern is moderate, like air quality is acceptable, but there may be risk for some people that are uncommonly sensitive to air pollution. Then at 101 to 100, you can start getting concerned for members of sensitive groups. So sensitive groups would include people with heart or lung diseases or people with diabetes and little children. Then at 151 to 200, it is unhealthy. That's red. And it means some members of the general public, like people who are not sensitive, normally sensitive, may start experiencing health effects. Then at this point, members of sensitive groups may already start experiencing more serious health effects. Then there's the higher level, which is 201 to 300. So that is an health alert, like everybody is at risk. The level of risk has increased for everyone at this point. Then the last one, which is, so the one I previously mentioned is between 201 and 300 is purple, very unhealthy. Then the highest one would be between 301 and higher. That's hazardous. Like the health warning at this point is an emergency condition and everyone is likely to be affected. So I had mentioned like the air quality in 2020. So that date was actually December 23rd. The air quality at that date was 207, which is between the purple, which is in the purple scale, right? And that means it is very unhealthy. So now trace back to 2018 where it was 181. So we've been trading this. So people in Port Harcourt have been consistently living in the red and purple zone of poor air quality. So that means at this point everyone is affected. Everyone has been exposed to high level of pollution. It's sad.
It's sad and scary. Just as we were preparing this video for upload, a news broke about an explosion in an illegal oil refinery in Nigeria that killed over 100 people, including children. This explosion occurred between Rivers State and Imo State on Friday, the 22nd of April at about midnight. As we have already discussed on this episode, these illegal refineries are a major source of the black soot in Port Harcourt City. So not only can these illegal refineries release black soot that can lead to diverse health defects in residents, but it can also lead to direct death and injuries, as can be seen in the recent explosion. On the next episode, we're going to be discussing ways in which this carbon soot problem can be solved and what individuals can do now to protect themselves and their loved ones from this black soot in Port Harcourt City and Rivers State as a whole. Don't forget to follow, share, and leave us a rating on all platforms where you listen to your podcast. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Until next episode, continue to live consciously. Bye.